everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. I'm here in my garage because today's project is all about taking my garlic that I grew this year and cleaning it up a little bit, cutting off the root end, cutting off the stem end, and putting it in my basement pantry where it's dark and cool for storage. So that is what I want to get accomplished today. I could not be more excited about my harvest. I have a previous video where I showed you about growing garlic and how I harvested these. I ended up with about 45 bulbs, and it was really productive and so simple. So if you are new to garlic growing and would like to give it a try, I can't urge you strongly enough, especially if you're like me and you love to cook and you use garlic in a lot of your cooking. It is such an easy crop to grow. So check out that video of me harvesting garlic. I'll put a link to the video in the description below for you all. If you haven't seen that, check it out because that's really important to see that piece of the process before we get to cleaning these up for long-term storage. So what am I going to need for this project? It's pretty simple. So this is the drying rack that these have been sitting on out here in our garage for, I think it's almost 3 weeks now, if I can remember exactly. And that's the recommendation, is once you harvest, you put them on some kind of a screen, elevate them, and make sure there's plenty of airflow in a warm place and let them really dry out. And these babies are dry and crispy. They didn't start that way, but now they are. So I feel really confident that it's time for me to prep them for storage. And here's what I'm going to do. I need to clean off the dirt. Now, I could have done a better job of this when I harvested them, but you don't want to damage the outer papery layers because that's what helps preserve your garlic over time. So I'm going to do that now, and I have a couple of options. I actually have these old cotton gloves that are sort of textured, and so I tried it earlier. My husband actually recommended this, and just taking this and gently going around each bulb really does clean them up. Another method that some people will use is taking a brush. This is a very soft bristle brush, and just brushing the dirt away. I don't know which method I like better. I kind of think this, where I can really feel what I'm doing so I'm not damaging these beautiful bulbs. So that's the first step. Going to wipe the bulbs down, get the dirt off, and then what else I need are some pruners. I've got my little Velcros here, and what I'll need to do is I'll need to cut off the root end and cut off the stem end, and now they'll be ready for long-term storage. Once I get to this point, I'll take the bulbs and I'll put, I don't know yet how many, I'll put some in paper sacks because that's a method of keeping them for a long time. A paper sack is better. Don't put your garlic in plastic baggies, because if there's any residual moisture to these that you work so hard to dry out, it will mold. And so I think I'm going to, use several paper sacks. And then I'll take you downstairs with me in our house to my downstairs pantry where I store food and paper products. It's a nice, cool, dark spot, and that's where I'm hoping to store them long term. So some of you that are new to garlic growing might not know that there are two types of garlic. There's hardneck and softneck. Apparently, I thought I purchased hardneck, and what I'm discovering is what they sent me was not hardneck. I think I got softneck garlic, which is perfectly fine. But apparently softneck garlic can store longer than hardneck. But I've also read that hardneck, the beauty of growing that type of garlic is for people in lower zones where it gets colder, because you plant the cloves in the fall and they stay in the ground over winter. And supposedly hardneck does better for people like me who live in, I'm in a zone 6 here in mid-Missouri. They can take really harshly cold winters better than softneck. So anyhow, but for some reason I'm pretty sure, because I just cut this stem, there is not a really hard woody center. I think I got soft neck, which is perfectly fine. Doesn't matter. Don't sweat it. Like, I think sometimes there's so much information on gardening on the internet from your friends. Everyone has different opinions, and this is just the way that I'm going to do it. But don't overthink things too much. I've got garlic and I'm delighted. I don't care whether it's hard neck or soft neck. I'm brand new to growing garlic and I'm pretty proud of what I've accomplished. So yeah, so I think I'll just set up the camera, get you in a little bit closer, and I'm going to clean this up and get it in paper sacks, and then get it down into the downstairs pantry for long-term storage. I managed to get 45 bulbs cleaned, but I separated out these 5 bulbs because, number one, do you see this crack right here? So that was probably when I was harvesting them out of the ground. I cut that. So this wouldn't be something I would feel comfortable storing long term. But that just means that I can start using it right away. So I'll just cut around that and use the other cloves that are in here fresh here in the next week or so in my cooking. But then I noticed this, and I don't know if I can get it on camera. I hope. So in these 4 bulbs, I noticed a little bit of green. And so what I'm going to do is, I'm assuming that might be a little bit of mold of some kind. And of course, I don't want those in with my other healthy bulbs. So I'm just going to open this up and see what I discover. And so sure enough, you can see in this bulb, these internal cloves have, you know, a little bit of brown on them. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these big bulbs and I am going to separate them out into individual cloves, saving only the healthy ones. I can use these in my cooking soon, you know, in the next week or two. Or what I might try that I read online is I might try to peel these and put them in my dehydrator, dehydrate them down, and then grind them and make garlic powder for my cooking, and that will last forever and ever. So that's what I think I'm going to try to do with these. Those of you who have grown garlic before and have any of these kinds of issues, please leave me some comments on, you know, if this ever happens. So I've cleaned all 45 heads of garlic. I cut off the roots. I cut off the stems and the roots, what's left over. This will, of course, go out into my compost bin, which will feed my garden in months and years to come. The only thing left for me to do now is to stick these in paper sacks, which is a recommendation on storing them because, as I mentioned, you want to store your bulbs long term in a cool, dark place. I'll be taking you downstairs with me in just a little bit and showing you where they're going to go in my downstairs basement pantry. The other thing I thought I would mention too is that, you know, you're going to see a tiny bit of discoloration and maybe a tiny bit of dirt on there. That doesn't bother me at all. It's super dry. Everything's bone dry. And actually, the recommendations that I have read is I could make these pristine and beautiful like you see in the grocery store by peeling off some of these outer layers, but actually that's not recommended for long-term storage because every layer of this paper that surrounds these cloves provides protection for storage. So I don't want to remove the outer layers just so that they look pretty. I mean, I'm the one using them in cooking, and so I'm not worried about, you know, a little bit of discoloration. That won't go into the pot anyhow. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I better get to it. I'm thinking I'm going to put maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 bulbs into each bag. And that way, my thinking is, let's say one of the bulbs goes bad in this sack. I've only got 4 or 5 heads of garlic in one sack. And so if it were to go bad and, kind of spread to the other bulbs, I haven't put the entire harvest into one paper sack. So anyways, again, I'm a first timer. So if you have really great ideas on how you like to store your garlic long term, please, I want to learn from you. Leave your comments in leave your ideas in the comments below. That would be awesome. All right, so that's easy. All I'm going to do is toss in, I think, let's do 5. 5 in a bag, little paper lunch sack. That's easy, so I'll get that done, and then we get to do the final step, which is getting them downstairs for long-term storage. All right, so this is where I've decided to store my garlic, here in my downstairs pantry that I store lots of things for entertaining and cookware. And of course, everybody's got a spot like this probably in their house. But why I've chosen this spot is because it is cool and dark in here. This room is unheated, although, the adjoining rooms are heated. But it'll be, I think, hopefully nice, dry, and dark and cool. So I went ahead and marked one of the bags. So I just need to put the rest of these sacks of garlic on the shelf. Couldn't be simpler. And it's going to make this room smell so good. That is, if you love garlic like I do. I think what I'll probably do is occasionally check on my garlic. Maybe once a month I'll open those sacks up just to make sure nothing is rotting and everything is healthy. So I am super proud of my first attempt at harvesting garlic. So that's going to do it for today's project. You got to come along with me as I cleaned up that garlic that I had harvested about 3 weeks ago and let dry out in my garage with a fan on it. You want to make sure your garlic heads are very, very dry before you put them in long-term storage. So clean that up and put them in these little paper sacks where they're going to stay on this shelf in my unheated, cool, dark space. I will be checking on these occasionally just to make sure that they haven't rotted or anything weird's going on in them. So I'll probably once a month go in here and just give a little peek. But I think I could not be more happy with my first attempt at growing garlic and harvesting and hopefully storing. So if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. And until next time, happy gardening.